Hi, Book2. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner, and it's time for a review. So, a couple days ago, I finished All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. Now, when I read the book description, I thought it was going to be very different than it turned out to be. I mentioned I talked a little bit about it in my latest update video, that I was thinking it was going to get more in a character obsessed in a very dangerous, if you don't submit to me, I'm going to, hold you captive or kill you or something. I thought it was going to go in that direction. I mean, there is that kind of situation in the story. I mean, not that exactly, but there is a character who does get kidnapped. So our main character is one of our main characters is Patch. I cannot. What is this? Let me see if I can get his. Okay, no, it doesn't say in the back of the book description. They still refer to him as. Okay. Well, anyway, they call him Patch. I don't remember his real name. But he was this kid. His dad is not in the picture. I don't know what happened to him. It's just him and his mom. His family, he and his mom are poor, and he is a kid who lost one of his eyes, so he wears a patch, hence why he's called Patch. And he's kind of keeps to himself. He's really into pirates. That is part of his identity. He's obsession with pirates, and which I think that was triggered by his having to wear a patch, missing an eye and having to wear a patch. So maybe that, I'm thinking that I mean, they probably explain, I don't remember if they explain it in the book or not, but I'm assuming it's a way to, make himself feel better about missing an eye and having to wear an eye patch. And, he ends up meaning, his best friend is called Saint. Her parents are dead. She lives with her grandmother. She's also kind of poor too. Although according to her, she's not as poor as Patch and his mom are. And they're both kind of outcasts in their community. And Saint is kind of in love with Patch. But he has a crush on this one girl, Misty Meyer. And Misty is one day when she's walking home from school, she gets attacked, and Patch is passing by, and he impulsively decides to rescue her. But even though she escapes, but he is the one that gets held captive by this guy named Eli Aaron. And Saint becomes obsessed with finding Patch because she loves him and is determined to find him. She believes he's still alive, somewhere that he's going to come back. She even gets involved, starts doing some detective work and forms a friendship with the police chief. He becomes like a father figure to her. Chief Nix, although he thinks that she, of course, since she's a kid, she shouldn't get involved in this, let the police do their job. And Misty also seems, because she really appreciates and is so grateful to Patch for saving her, she also wants to know if he's going to be rescued, if they're going to find him, and she kind of starts to long for him and have feelings for him. And then when Patch does show up, he gets rescued, but you find out that Patch, while he was being held captive by Eli Aaron, it turns out that he met this girl named Grace, who was there with him, and they form a bond. She's a very spiritual person. She tries to give him hope, and they have all these long conversations while he's being held captive. And after he escapes, and there's a fire when he's able to be rescued, and he believes that Grace is alive somewhere, that she's out there, and he becomes obsessed with finding her. And because she cares about Patch, she also gets involved in finding this girl. And also they start working on getting justice for the other girls that they find out, because they find out that Eli Aaron has done this to other girls, that he's captured other girls and other than Grace. So they start finding them and trying to find them, see if they're still alive, or at least giving the parents of these young girls closure. And it's there's and meanwhile Misty is trying to, because she has developed feelings for Patch. They try to start dating, but he's just too obsessed with finding Grace. And this book is so there's a sadness to this. This is a very melancholy story. Like I said, it's not what I was expecting when I read it, which is not a bad thing. I still enjoyed it. It's very heartbreaking, and I was very frustrated with this little dynamic between these teenagers, because we see them get older until they become adults throughout the story. And I was just so frustrated with them, because you have Saint is in love with Patch, but he's hung up on Grace and refuses to consider the possibility that Grace might have not been real, that she might have been in his own mind, or that even if she is real, she's not out there or doesn't want to be found. He just refuses to accept that. And he continuously sees himself as a bad person, that he doesn't deserve Saint and Misty's love and affection, and he sees, I'm bad, I'm a bad person, you shouldn't love me, and he's pushing them away, and is like, I have to find her, I can't give up on her, even though people keep telling him to let it go. He just refuses to give up. He feels like he can't give up, because he has to find her, or at least help these other young girls. Which on the one hand, I was frustrated that he wouldn't let it go, but on the other hand, it is admirable that he cares so much, that he wants to help these other girls, and not just Grace, if she's real or not, because that's the big mystery, is Grace real, or was it just Patch's imagination? I'm just thinking, you only spent a short period of time. You're not in love with her. Maybe you're infatuated with her because she was so kind and gave you hope. And that maybe it was maybe even it was in a way like a Florence Nightingale situation where, patients fall in love with nurses falling in love with their patients, although he wasn't the nurse, he was the caretaker, Grace was. And it's almost like, I feel bad for saying let it go, because she was this Grace person, if she was real, was a real comfort to him. But then I'm thinking at the same time, if Grace was real, then she wouldn't want him to live his life just obsessing over finding her, and not living his own life. So it's just, and I felt so bad for Saint, because she was so in love with him, would do anything for him. She gets involved with the police because of him. She gives up on school later in life, like school as in college, because she goes through high school. And she does get a chance to be with someone else, but that doesn't work. That ended up falling apart. And I quickly lost sympathy for that character, for that boy that she gets to be with, that she tries to have a relationship with, because if he crosses a line later on, that just really pissed me off. And he was okay in the beginning, maybe a little too pushy with his religious and spiritual beliefs with Saint, and not really, I felt like he didn't really understand her and was putting her on this pedestal and seeing her in a certain way, wanting her to be a certain way, that she was not going to meet those expectations for this young man. But I also understand her grandmother wanting to push that relationship, because Saint was so focused on Patch. She wasn't living her own life. She sacrificed her life for him, this boy who would never love her back. And she had a boy that did love her back, even though that relationship fell apart, and he turned out not such a great guy. And Misty, she was a character that I also kind of pitied, because she was also in love with Patch. Oh, and this was another thing that Saint even tries to tell Misty. He's like, you can have anyone else. Why do you have to take him from me? And I had mixed feelings about that. On the one hand, I felt bad for her, because they both loved Patch. And I can understand this, Like, this girl, Misty, is this pretty, popular girl. All the boys worship her, and, she's rich, she's gorgeous, and, all these boys, she has all these friends, and all these boys like her, and it's like, you can have all this stuff, yet you want to go after the one boy the only boy I can have. The only boy that will be interested in me. I mean, of course, that's not entirely true because there's the other one I mentioned, but they have a connection, they have a bond, they're very similar. And so I can kind of understand why she's like, why'd you have to go after him? But then Misty was not mean. She wasn't a mean girl. She wasn't snobby or anything like that. I mean, she was someone who really appreciated Patch and was interested in him for who he was, and was grateful for him saving her life. And she started to really have affection for him and care about him and love him for who he was. And it was just, for him, he was just completely oblivious. He just kept like, you're gonna move on, you're gonna get over me. You can live your life and go to college and go to a great school, get a great career, have a great career, have a great handsome husband that loves you and worships you. And that's how he saw. Like, he said he wasn't good enough. He always felt like he wasn't good enough. And that, I think that's a mixture of feeling like that, and then also feeling like, I have a mission, I have a task, I'm gonna find Grace and help these other girls. Even if I don't find Grace, I can help these other girls and their families. So he was so focused on that he just didn't have any room for Misty or Saint in his life. And like I said, in his mind, he saw himself it wasn't just about that, it was the fact that he saw himself as a bad person that didn't deserve them. But anyway, back to Misty. She turns out to be a good person, like, not the typical rich, popular girl. She actually was a kind, loving person. That, yeah, she happened to come from a rich family and could go to a great school and was very popular, but she, deep down, her experience of almost getting kidnapped and then being saved, and that other boy taking her savior taking her place, I think it changed her perspective on things. It made her a little more down to earth and humble. I mean, I don't know, we don't get a lot of who she was before, but you have to assume that it had this strong impact on who she was and her beliefs and her experiences and her thoughts on life. And she was such a kind person. And her and Patch were cute together at first. They had a lot of sweet moments. I mean, he was awkward when meeting her parents, and he was still obsessed with Grace, but he tried with her a little bit. He tried a little bit, not a lot, not enough in my opinion, but he still tried a little bit to actually have a relationship. But then he realizes, he's just wasting time with Misty, and he does break off with her. And she does get a little bratty when he breaks up with her. She does get a little, you can't break up with me kind of mentality. But then I think it was also coming from a place of hurt and anger and just, feeling betrayed almost, probably. Because they were so great together. I didn't like her parent. I mean, her mom was a little bit better, but her dad was kind of like, he was a typical rich dad. That wealthy, father is like, oh, she needs to go with someone that's more of her class, her status, and you're just not good enough. You need to break her heart, kind of thing. I mean, now the mom was a little bit better because you find out later that she didn't like the dad tried to get Patch to do that. And her mom does care about her daughter, wants her daughter to have a good, decent life and not waste her time. And being with Patch would be a waste of time for her, because he wasn't completely devoted to her. And I hate to say, but I kind of can see where it's coming from, where it's like, you need to be with someone because sometimes it's hard if it's that extreme a relationship where there's that extreme difference of poor and rich, I can understand, because it would be hard for you to connect with some, like, there would always be that undertone of, I can't give you all these nice things, and you had this nice cushy life before, but with me you're not going to have this cushy life. And there's always that undertone in a relationship where the two of you are completely different financial status. In that kind of dynamic, I mean, it's gonna take a lot. You gotta compromise, and so you kind of understand where it's coming from in a little bit. Where there would always be that issue, unless you really are just that down to earth person, which is possible. I mean, there are people that are rich that can go lower in the economic totem pole and be okay with it. Of course, I don't know because I'm not in that kind of situation, so I'm just guessing. In all honesty, I don't know for sure, but that's from what I've seen. Um, there's also a character of this other character, this Sammy, I think his name was, and he kind of becomes a mentor and a father figure for Patch, especially when Patch's mom kind of checks out because in her grief and her fear for loss, she loses herself a little bit. And but this character Sammy, he's cranky, he's a little cantankerous, and but he's also likable. He really cares, and he was a kind of a fun character. He's snarky and just he kind of helps Patch with his gift of sketching, his ability to create these paintings of these women, these young girls that were kidnapped. He kind of encourages it. The parents in this, the Misty's mom, Sammy, and then Saint's grandmother are really fun characters. I like, and Chief Nix too. All these adult characters are, they really care about their kids. They're not completely dismissive of their kids in these, there's their kids, what is important to their kids. They care about them and want them to, stay safe, but they don't try to keep them in a bubble. They don't try to hold them captive so they won't get into trouble or something. They try to guide them. So I really like all the adult characters, the parental figures. Um I mean, some of them aren't as, some of them make mistakes. Some of them screw up, and some of them, because of their different generation, their ideas are a little bit aren't perfect. Their ideas don't blend necessarily always well with this younger generation. Like I said, the grandma's pushing Saint to do, they're all in a way pushing their kids to be a certain way because of certain expectations that these kids are like, no, I won't be meeting those expectations. Like, some of them, they try, but they just can never live up to that. But it is very slow going, but the chapters are short, so I kept wanting to turn the pages. I wanted to see what was going to happen with these characters, where they were going to go. Are we going to, like I said, the big mystery is Grace real? Who is she? Is he going to find her by the end? Doesn't matter if he finds her, is like, that's the intriguing mystery of the story, is who Grace is. And it is long. Like I said, it's slow and a bit long, but the chapters are short. There are probably parts that didn't necessarily need to be in the story, like these little moments. But then again, those moments might have just added to who these characters were. But anyway, I liked this. I thought it was really good, really heart gut wrenching. I mean, I wasn't like bursting into tears, but I am not someone who cries that often in books. I'm more prone to crying in a TV show and a movie because I get the actual visual of the story, and not just me reading the words and trying to picture everything. But I do think people that do cry in books, most people would probably cry a little bit, might tear up at least. And I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say about the book. I liked it. I had a good time with it. melancholy book. But yeah, it was a good story. So anyway, that is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. So those are my thoughts. I hope you check it out. If you don't, that's okay. But I think it's worth checking out. And if you like, I hope you liked this review. I would love to know what you are currently reading, or have you read this book? If you didn't like that, since I've already read it and did my review and everything, I haven't done my written review yet, but it's okay if you didn't like it. Feel free to share that as well. I'd like to be able to discuss, discuss even if someone doesn't like something. But at least with this case, it's not like I'm passionately in love with this book or anything. Like, I happen to like it. So if you don't like it, I think I won't get as over emotional, because I acknowledge that I can get over emotional when I get attached to something. But anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.